Hello everyone, in this video, I'll be translating and summarizing the latest Urdu broadcast by Moeed Pirzada to make it accessible for our English-speaking audience. Let's go through the key developments and insights in Moeed Pirzada's words. An interesting and important development is that when we see Pakistan's army chief, General Asim Munir, Field Marshal General Asim Munir, giving a speech at the National Defence University in Islamabad, addressing the junior officer graduating officers, he made a significant threat to India. He stated that if India attempts any form of adventurism against Pakistan's military bases or population centres, there will be disastrous consequences for India. He said much more. But looking at other developments, we also see that Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian gave a significant and important interview to American broadcaster Carl Tucker Carlson, where he revealed that the Israeli government had attempted to assassinate and kill him, and clarified that this attempt was not made by the US. At this time, as I speak, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu is in Washington, where in a few hours he is set to have talks with US President Donald Trump about Gaza and Iran. These talks are very complicated for many reasons because Donald Trump's demands and needs are different from the requirements of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. This will lead to a complex situation, and there are many issues to address. I would like to go through these quickly, but first, let me share a little about my experience in Augusta, Maine. I spent the last day or so wandering through different areas of the city, and these roads have historical significance. I had an American friend tell me that Stephen King, the famous author who has written countless horror novels in America, drew his inspiration from the historical roads and forests of Maine. Whether this is true or not, I can show you some images from his books. Stephen King is one of the wealthiest people in the world from selling his books. As I travel through North America's east coast by road, I see lakes, ponds and rivers on all sides. Coming from South Asia, particularly from India and Pakistan, I feel a mix of admiration and envy for this, and my heart wishes that India and Pakistan could have such peaceful conditions. The reason is that it seems the next war between these countries could be over water resources. This is something we have discussed before, and it will come up again. I often think to myself that I would love to steal some of this water and take it back with me. I will show you an image of this. Yesterday, I spent several hours with a community of retirees who live around Watson Pond. These people used to work for the US government and now live in quiet cottages, enjoying a peaceful life of fishing, boating and swimming. I had the chance to talk to several people, and while there were no Indians or Pakistanis to be seen in the community, many of the retired US government employees shared their perspectives on Pakistan. One retired individual told me that when thinking of Pakistan, they saw it as one of the most tragic places, created as a result of British imperialism and now being manipulated by American powers. This person felt that many of the world's current issues were a consequence of British rule, and that the Americans inherited this legacy. They see Pakistan as a country that has been exploited by both the British and the Americans. This is something to think about. Now turning to General Asim Munir's statements, they have become the highlight of many Pakistani newspapers. His speech at the National Defence University was widely covered, not just in Pakistani media, but also in Indian media. In his speech, General Asim Munir responded to accusations from India, specifically regarding claims made by General Rahul Singh, India's Deputy Chief of Staff. General Singh had stated that India was fighting against three forces: Pakistan, China and Turkey. The reference to Turkey seemed unnecessary, as only two main powers, India and Pakistan, should be considered. General Asim Munir clarified that Pakistan was not involved in any conflict involving a third party and denied allegations of foreign involvement. General Asim Munir also responded to the claim that India was not ready for war, whereas Pakistan was operationally prepared. I agree with General Asim Munir's assessment that Pakistan was ready for conflict, while India was not, mainly due to the political decisions made by India's military high command. However, there are areas where we might disagree with General Munir's analysis. So, many people in India have a misconception that Pakistan lacks its own fighting capabilities and that all of Pakistan's weapons are foreign-sourced, either from the United States or China. This is a misconception. Pakistan has its own indigenous military capabilities and weapons systems, including a robust missile program and highly trained air force. These are often underestimated by Indian commentators. General Munir's comment that India was not prepared for war is also supported by the fact that India's military was forced into a conflict without adequate preparation. However, where General Munir's argument becomes weaker is in the reference to General Rahul Singh's claim that Pakistan's military, during ceasefire talks, had precise knowledge of India's military movements. Singh's claim that Pakistan's intelligence had detailed information on India's defence systems and movements could mean that either Pakistan had access to sensitive Indian military data or that China was providing this intelligence via satellite systems. This raises an important question about the sources of intelligence during the conflict. It could either be through Pakistani intelligence or from Chinese satellite systems guiding Pakistan's actions. We cannot be sure of General Munir's response to this. Additionally, General Asim Munir mentioned India's ground defence systems such as the S-400 and noted that while they were successful in intercepting Pakistani drones, they were not effective enough to protect India's population centres from future drone attacks. He warned that if Pakistan targets India's military bases, they should not expect it to be like a Bollywood film. Pakistan's response will be swift and severe. This kind of rhetoric is meant to rally Pakistanis, especially the junior officers who are less familiar with the broader strategic situation. Pakistan's main challenge, however, is not military preparedness, but water security. The issue of the Indus Water Treaty and India's increasing control over water resources is a significant concern. If India continues to restrict Pakistan's access to water, it will have serious consequences for Pakistan in the long term. I've seen news reports, like one from the New York Times, about the devastating floods in central Texas, and I can't help but think about how water can be a weapon, both natural and political. This is why water will be the principal issue in Pakistan's future, especially if India tries to leverage water resources as a weapon. Additionally, the growing anti-Muslim sentiment, fostered by groups like RSS and BJP in India over the last 35 to 40 years, is another challenge Pakistan faces. This hatred is increasingly evident in Indian society, and such deep-rooted animosity can have disastrous consequences. Historical examples such as the fall of Andalusia show that when one group of people develops deep hatred toward another, the consequences can be catastrophic. As I continue to analyze these issues, I believe one of the most significant challenges facing Pakistan is the ongoing manipulation of water resources and the increasing hatred being fostered by India's political elite. This is the real threat that Pakistan must address in the coming years. In India, some people are very much aware of this. Now, Tucker Carlson has arrived, the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, and Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump. On Friday, American broadcaster and journalist TV anchor Tucker Carlson made an announcement that with the help of a translator, he interviewed the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. The interview, after editing, would be released on Saturday or Sunday. Of course, there was a language issue, but this interview was released on Monday morning, and it is currently being covered by media all around the world, whether in the United States, the United Kingdom, or globally. Let me show you a screenshot of how many newspapers are covering this, commenting on it from different angles. Tucker Carlson also mentioned that he had requested to interview Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu for the third time, but he still hadn't received any positive response from him. Carlson stated that he had asked President Masoud Pezeshkian very broad questions. He didn't want to ask specific questions like how much damage Iran's nuclear facilities had sustained. Obviously, he wouldn't have received any honest answer to that. Instead, he asked general questions like, do you want to fight Israel? Do you want to negotiate with America? Do you want to end the war? The headline in the world right now is about the interview with Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, where he told Tucker Carlson that Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu's government had tried to assassinate him in a place where he was having meetings with his team and cabinet. They specifically targeted him. Masoud Pezeshkian also clarified that this assassination attempt was not made by the United States government. It's important to note that Donald Trump is on record stating that Iran's spiritual leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was targeted for assassination by the Israelis. Israel had asked for approval from the United States, which was strictly denied. They were told that they couldn't target Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. For almost 3 weeks, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei remained untouched. However, in the last 48 hours, he gave a speech at a mosque, after which people sighed with relief. This means that it is now understood that the threat to his life has lessened. Iran's former President Raisi also had a helicopter accident, which, as I analysed, was an Israeli attack. However, at that time, the Iranians didn't want to escalate the situation further, and so they never admitted it. But my analysis is that the accident was an Israeli operation. Now, as we've seen, Israel's penetration into Iran's political structure, its management and administration, is far deeper than we previously realized. Masoud Pezeshkian told Carlson in the interview that this war was neither started by Iran nor does Iran want it. Iran was negotiating with America when this war broke out. He added that Iran holds no responsibility for this war and that they are absolutely ready to talk with America about the nuclear deal. He said that any time talks could begin if America can guarantee that, if they trust the United States again, they won't be attacked by Israel or America, as had happened in the past when Israel started attacking Iran during negotiations. Looking at the conflict in the last few weeks, it's clear that Iran is not fighting Israel, but fighting against Israel's backer, America. Even when America itself hasn't attacked, Israel's entire defense system is backed by the United States, including weapons, air force, and systems. Israel cannot defeat Iran on its own. Only with the full backing of United States power can Israel hope to pin Iran down successfully. This is a reality that is largely shaped by the Zionist lobby's influence on America's political structure. According to reports from the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian mentioned that Israel and America had launched illegal attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, but the IAEA inspectors, who were supposed to condemn these violations, failed to do so. This failure has led to widespread distrust in the IAEA within Iran's population and government. The nuclear facilities have suffered severe damage. Interestingly, in the past few days, the Iranian officials, including Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and President Pezeshkian, have publicly stated that their nuclear facilities have been heavily damaged, though they are still assessing the extent of the damage. This assessment will determine if the facilities can still be operated or not. Until this process is completed, IAEA inspectors who were expelled from Iran will not be allowed to return. Iran's leadership has repeatedly stated that the Zionist lobby and America exert significant pressure on Iran. We must understand the actual dynamics at play rather than the superficial narrative that Israel and America have been attacking Iran. The real issue here is that Iran is the only Muslim nation-state that has stood against global Zionism, refusing to surrender, while the rest of the Muslim countries are submitting to Zionist control. Countries like Pakistan, Indonesia and Malaysia may give speeches, but they have no real power to resist global Zionism. The real challenge is not just about Israel or America attacking Iran. The real issue lies in Iran's defiance against global Zionism. Israel's strategic thinking involves forcing regime change in Iran and establishing complete control over its territory, similar to how they have done in Syria and Iraq. This is why Netanyahu and Trump are discussing how to deal with the situation. The agenda of these talks, if successful, could lead to significant political changes in the region, such as Israel's recognition by Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries. However, the key issue for Israel is not just about Iran's nuclear bomb, it's about Iran itself as an Islamic republic. Netanyahu has always viewed Iran as a major threat and wants to see its regime removed, not simply its nuclear capability. Regarding the nuclear deal, while experts say Iran's nuclear facilities haven't been greatly harmed, the situation could improve dramatically if Iran strikes a deal with the US, especially if sanctions are lifted. This would boost Iran's economy. Now turning to the philosophical question posed by Allama Iqbal in his famous poem, "In slavery, swords and strategies are of no use. Only when certainty is achieved do chains break." The first part of this line is often misunderstood, as people believe that in slavery one must fight with weapons or strategy. However, Iqbal suggests that mere physical means like swords or tactics are insufficient in true liberation. The second part of his poetry, which emphasizes certainty, yaqeen, implies that real freedom comes when a person has faith, certainty, and the power of will beyond material means. This is something Iqbal often discussed, linking faith, passion, and self-empowerment as the true forces that break the metaphorical chains of slavery. Would you like me to expand more on Iqbal's perspective on this? That wraps up our translation of Moeed Pirzada's video. I hope this English version helped you understand his message better. Please like, share, and subscribe to Awami Lens to help our community grow. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this effort.